Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to look into Dailymed, which is the official repository of all of the product labels, including, of course, human drugs and animal drugs in the United States of America. So, which institution is maintaining this website? This is FDA. And why I would like to talk about Dailymed website today, that's because this is the place where we always go in order to access the product labels. So what is a product label? This is a document related to all of the product's characteristics. So if you would like to know if there have been any clinical trials done on a product, if you would like to have information about the safety profile of a product, the efficacy profile of a drug, even the safety profile of the drug through the pharmacovigilance activities and different safety reports, we always go to the source for the product labels, which is Dailymed. Obviously, in each country, the regulatory authority has its own, I would say, a source of information for this type of document. And this type of document that we call label by FDA in the USA is called a product monograph in Canada. Another example is the same document, not with the same format, of course, because each regulatory authority in each country has its own format or template for writing these documents. We can also talk about the example of the European Medicine Agency, EMA, where a product label is called a summary of product characteristics. You can always see the abbreviation SMPC. So now coming back to the product label, usually when we would like to prepare documents, when we would like to, again, review information, the most up-to-date information about a product which is registered in the USA, we come to the Dailymed and we are going to look into the product label. So let's go over the product label in detail so that we understand what type of information we can obtain from this document. And obviously, this is the official document that has been prepared by the company that is manufacturing and registering the product. And this information is also updated regularly. Why? That's because we may conduct additional clinical trials, additional animal trials or experimentations. We may know more about the safety profile of a drug. We may now know more or having new ways to make or produce or synthesize a molecule, if this is a molecule, chemical molecule of the drug. And we always update that. And how companies, they do this? When companies, they're going to send their new drug application to FDA, they also, of course, submit a copy of their label. However, over months, we will definitely have more information, at least related to the safety profile of a drug. And in this case, the company will continue to update FDA. This is the law. And then we will see the updated document, the product label on this website. And of course, this is the main source for having access to the product label on internet for any drug, animal drug or human drug, registered in the USA. So now let's go over the interface of this website. So of course, on the top, if you would like to know the URL of this site, this is at Dailymed in one word, dailymed.nlm.nih.gov. So when you go here, you will see on the top a search box where you can now search for your product. And then when you end up going to your product site, which is the one that you're looking at, and for today, I chose the product which is Humira, and we are going to go over what is Humira, which is a combination drug. It means that this is a drug and a medical device, and both combined, this is a combination drug that has been approved by FDA. So now let's go over different sections. As you see, we do have on the left side the box warning. This is the strongest warning that FDA requires and signifies that medical studies indicate that the drug carries a significant risk of serious or even life-threatening adverse effects. Now, you may say in this case, if the drug has or carries a significant risk of serious or even life-threatening adverse events, why this is registered or it's approved? In fact, we cannot make so far a perfect drug where it would be so specific that it would just give us its therapeutic effect without causing any untoward medical occurrence that may be experienced by a patient. So here we talk about the risk versus benefit. So we call that risk-benefit ratio. We always look into the pros and cons, and we look into what the drug can do, and we also take note of all of the potential adverse drug reactions that may be serious, of course, or non-serious. And then we will inform healthcare providers and patients about the risk-benefit ratio. So it's not a matter of, again, putting on a side any drug that may have any even minor adverse drug reaction. It's a matter of letting the patients and the healthcare providers know about the risk-benefit ratio for each drug so that the patient can make an informed decision. And if the patient takes that drug, he or she may decide to stop it if the patient is starting to experience any adverse drug reaction that he or she may not tolerate. So that was for the boxed warning. Now, on the same side, you can also report adverse events. This is for all of the patients or customers who are using this product. And this interface allows all of the users of this product to go to another site, another web interface, and then to report any adverse events that have been experienced by them. We also have another we say link, which is about the safety recalls, where when there is any issue with a batch or maybe a drug itself, all of the batches, FDA is going to inform us about the recalls. So the decision of a company for taking out of the market any distributed drug that has been recalled. And then we also have another very interesting and important section, which is the presence in the breast milk. This is because drugs, as you know all, are having their own particularities. When we talk about the pharmacology, so the pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, we see what the drug does to the body, but also what the body does to the drug. And when we talk about the pharmacokinetics, so what the body does to the drug, we will see that one of the ways that the body is getting rid of that drug, in addition to metabolization, for example, is also, again, metabolization, but then through the secretion by saliva, by the, again, breast milk, and of course by exhalation as well. So since for, again, mothers who are, again, breastfeeding their toddlers, there may be some risk for drugs that may be now excreted through the mother's milk, we need to conduct some studies so that we will know more about any potential harm that we may cause if the mother is breastfeeding. So it's not just for this drug, it's for all of the products that we have on the market. All of the regulatory authorities, they are really meticulously following up with all of the report of adverse events, and obviously report of the presence of the drug or any metabolite that may also be active in the breast milk. Then on the left, you also have related sources, because we have scientists, also regulatory professionals, people in clinical research as well. They need to write reports. They need to sometimes, again, do the comparisons in between products. They need to do more research or even literature review. So what they do is that they can, from this page, go to Medline Plus. This is a repository for all of the, all I would say, the majority of the publications, peer-reviewed publications. Another place where we can also go is PubMed. Now, the next link that you can find on Dailymed is the clinical trials site, where we can go to clinicaltrials.gov, which is the official repository of all of the clinical trials taking place on the American soil. So if you're a company and you are having a multi-center clinical research study in several countries, including the USA, you will need to necessarily register your protocol for your research in clinicaltrials.gov. And this is how we can always, at any given time, see what are the studies that are taking place in the, again, on the US soil, in addition to, of course, additional information, because we also write down, for example, that this study is being done on the US soil, but also in Canada or in other countries. Then, of course, I already expressed, stated that you have a link to the PubMed. You can also look into biochemical data summary. When we prepare a new drug application, it must be in the Common Technical Document, or CTD format. The CTD format is composed of 5 modules, Module 1 through Module 5, where Module 1 is regional and it contains administrative information. However, in Module 2 through Module 5, we have other types of information. M2 is for the summary of the information that we put in Module 3, 4, and 5. In Module 3, we are again including information about the quality of the product, how it has been made, all of the tests, all of the standards that we used, all of the, I would say, chemical manipulations. We test, of course, for making that product or that API or active pharmaceutical ingredient active or stable in the final product. And this is where we also write a document, again in module 3, that we call CMC, or Chemistry, Manufacturing, and Control. So the information that we have in the CMC, and even more in depth, can also be found on the biochemical data summary. Again, this is for individuals who are doing research, who are looking into more regulatory submissions using a drug. And this is, again, this is the main source of information for us. Of course, since I started with the new structure of NDA, I'm going to continue by saying that after module 3, where we are, again, adding information related to the quality of the product, we continue with the completion of module 4 and 5 that are, again, related to all of the preclinical or animal experimentations, and module 5, which is for clinical trials. Perfect. So now, of course, we can have other type of information for any drug. Now we talk about this drug. So we can have an NDC code, get the label in the RSS feed. We can look into the prescription norms or RX norm. And we can also look into the previous labels. So it's an archive of the previous labels of the same product, because as I already mentioned, we update the product labels. It may be 2-3 times per year, again, depending on the product. Now let's go over, again, the content of which is available on the product label. So first of all, we have the NDC code. This is a national drug code. In Canada, we have the DIN number, drug identification number, or DIN. In the US, we have the National Drug Code, or NDC. So each drug product is assigned this unique number, which can be found on the drug's outer packaging. So this is, again, the same information that you can see here at the bottom of this, sorry, interface. So now let's go over the content. So we can see the category, the schedule none, the marketing status is biologic, sorry, licensing application. And then continuing with the this version of the information, we can see the highlights of the prescription information. So when we open this section, we will see the boxed warning that I already stated when I talked about the left menu. So this is the strongest warning that FDA requires. So we write here for this drug, which is Humira, it's associated with an increased risk of serious infections leading to hospitalization or death, and including several symptoms and signs. So here we understand that this is, again, the decision of the healthcare provider and mainly the patient to talk about this drug, prescribe the drug, and of course to use this drug, knowing about the risk-benefit ratio of this drug. Sorry. Okay. So now I'm just going to continue just by, okay, perfect. Okay, now let's continue with, sorry. with our discussion. So the next section is the indication and usage. So here we see that Humira is used for rheumatoid arthritis, but it also has other indications. Another one is important is psoriatic arthritis. Of course, Crohn's disease as well, or ulcerative colitis. So it's a very interesting and important drug with several indications and usages, and this is on the market since 2002. So then, going back to the dosage and administration, we can see again what is the dosage, and again it's based on the weight of the patients, pediatric weight, and the recommended dose. We can see that for another disease condition, the dosage is again different, because now you see again yourself how the dosage can be different depending on the disease condition. And the same thing applies to other disease conditions as well. So then we can now learn more about, again, the strengths. So what we can get on the market for Humira are single dose pre-filled pens, now at different concentration, and we can have a single dose glass vial for only hospitals or institutional use. So now we see that Humira is a combined product. This is a product, biologically active, that is also delivered, or which is already in syringes, of course, for the majority of cases, because patients can buy the product, of course, after prescription, and then to self-inject them. That's why these are self-dose pre-filled pens. And this pen is considered as a medical device. Now, what is very interesting is that in this case, this is again a drug that has been again approved by FDA, and the combination is both of those products. It means that we are now dealing with a new drug application for a drug where the product has to come with a pre-filled syringe. Of course, you can also have the single dose glass vial. This one is just a vial, and it has to be broken or opened, and then it will be administered. So for the third case, we don't have any medical device associated with this drug. Then we have another section related to the warning and precautions. This section is already added into the box, warning box on the top. However, these are additional warning and precautions. So, for example, hepatitis B virus reactivation is one of the risks. It's very interesting to know about that. So now let's go over the adverse reactions. So here we talk about infections. That's because this again, product affects also the immune system. And then another section related to Humira is about the drug interactions. So here we can see that when we are prescribing this drug to our patients, we need also to make sure that they're not going to be exposed, for example, to live vaccines or other products. Then we see that we review again the boxed warning. This one is again more comprehensive, and it also has a section related to again the potential of the drug to cause cancer. So here we talk about malignancy. Then we have now more in detail information related to the drug. So one of them is the indication of use, where we have all of the information that we need. Then we have the dosage and administration. So as you see, this is much more comprehensive compared to what we saw in the first pages. So we understand the first pages are just giving us a summary, while again, when you are continuing to read the product label, you will have different sections that will go more in depth related to the information that we need about a specific drug. So now that you see that for each disease or any disease condition, we have different dosages for this product. We can also look into, again, more in-depth information related to the dosages and forms. So you remember that we had, again, in the previous, I would say the previous pages, we had only a few sentences, but here we do have more, I would say, information and in-depth. So here we can see that we have the pen, we have the pre-filled syringe. So again, these are all both medical device combined with a drug. And then here we have a single dose institution. This is just by injection. So this one doesn't have a medical device associated with this product. Then related to the contraindications, we have nothing so far, of course. And we have, again, warnings and precautions. As you see, again, we have a much more in-depth information related to the use of this drug. Now we continue with the adverse reactions, where again, more in depth, we learn more about any potential harm that and the extent of the harm that a patient using this drug may experience. Then we have drug interactions, whereas you see, we have again more information about which drugs we should not again use when using this product, and especially it doesn't just give us which drugs, it gives us also enough explanation that is provided by the manufacturer of this drug. Then we have the use in specific or special populations. It's important that we have information related to the use of any drug in special populations. However, it's not ethical, it's not, again, acceptable to test any drug or any new drug on pregnant population, for example. So because of this, when we are like here, when we are having some information related to the use of a drug during pregnancy, this is because there have been accidents where a person was not again exposed before, of course, to a drug, and then the person started to use the drug. However, the person became, I would say, pregnant, and without knowing that. So that was again, of course, not voluntary. Of course, it was unknown by the person. And in this case, we can now sorry, look into the risks. So for example, here, which is again very important as well, is that, for example, the registry results showed a rate of 10 for major birth defects, 10% with the first trimester use of Humira in pregnant women with RA or CD, and a rate of 7.5 for major birth defect in disease-matched comparison cohorts. So you see that we are looking into the first semesters. So first semester, it means that the again, the pregnant person was not aware of the use of the product. And once the person was using the product and again became pregnant, unfortunately, that drug did affect the normal growth of the fetus. So this is why, again, as I told you, we don't expose the pregnant population to new drugs or drugs that are not experimented yet on, again, on, I would say they didn't show that they are safe, but we have those data from accidents. Sometimes, of course, again, we may have even information of the overdose. Again, we don't use overdose in a clinical trial. Again, it's not ethical, it's not acceptable. However, we always have cases where a patient has been exposed to an overdose, and in this case, hopefully the patient has been rescued and helped and is safe. And at the same time, we use the information in the product label for letting know everyone about any potential adverse drug reactions or side effects, symptoms of overdose, so that we can stop the drug as soon as we can to protect our patients. Another important section, and we already talked about that, is lactation. So it's breastfeeding. And here we have a much more comprehensive information about the breastfeeding. Then pediatric use. If a product has not been used in the pediatric population because it has not been tested, in this case, we don't dispose of any information unless, again, the product has been used by inadvertence. So the person didn't know. But for this case of Humira, since it must be injected, we cannot have a risk that an infant have used the product. So what happens is that when the product shows its efficacy and safety, it will be tested, of course, in pediatric population. And what happens next is that sorry. What happens is that we will now test the product in different ages. So we do pediatric clinical trials. And the information that you see here is about the pediatric use based on the pediatric clinical trials. So then we have overdosage. I already covered that information. This is where we always look into the safety reports, and if there is any accident that has been reported to us, we are going to, of course, not only follow up with those cases, but at the same time, we are going to update the product monograph. So then we have a description of the molecule, which is very important because this is the information that has been added into the registration documents. We have companies like, again, company that is, I'm going to talk about company, the names, but company that is also selling Humira, that once they wanted to register the product in the USA, they used the new drug application in order to apply to register the drug in the USA. We also have the same company that did the same in Canada. But in Canada, we have a new drug submission application to complete. And in both, we can find the description of the drug, and the information is the information that has been used when the company was applying for the authorization to test the product, such as IND or investigational new drug application in the USA, or clinical trial application, which is the again, or which is CTA in Canada that we submit to Health Canada. So the description here is again given to us by the manufacturer. And again, it is just a very brief but very complete information related to the dosage, about the product itself, about its molecular weight, about how it has been made, what are the doses that we have, again, the formulation of the product as well. So this is a very interesting and very, again, complete brief of the characteristics of the drug. Then we have a section for the clinical pharmacology, where we look into the pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. And of course, we have a section for the mechanism of action. Don't forget that for products like antibiotics, we may not have necessarily, again, a precise knowledge about where the product goes, when the antibiotic goes, how it works exactly, but we know that its effect is to kill bacteria, for example. And of course, not just that, we have antibiotics like rapamune that has also immunosuppressive properties. So even antibiotics, sometimes we don't know well about the mechanism of action. However, we always, within the limitations of experimentations, we always look into what the drug does to the body. So pharmacodynamics, and here we have a section for Humira, and what the body does to the drug, so that how it's going to be absorbed. So we have the absorption, how it's going to be distributed in the body, how it's going to be eliminated, and of course, I would say metabolized and eliminated. So here we talk about pharmacokinetics. And obviously, you also talk about the patient population, and we have a very comprehensive information or several paragraphs related to the drug. And here we have anti-drug antibody effects on pharmacokinetics as well. So it's much more specialized, much more in-depth information that you can find in the product label. And again, this information is coming from first INDs that have been submitted to FDA. And of course, this information is coming from the information that we put in the new drug application forms and documents that we have to complete in order to apply to register the product in a country. And here we talk about the USA. We also have a section for the non-clinical toxicology. This is related to animal experimentations where animals within the ethical framework have been or may have been exposed to toxic doses of the drug. Then we have a section for clinical studies. For clinical studies, each manufacturer needs to complete what we call an IND or an investigational new drug application, and to submit that to FDA. So here we look into the efficacy and safety of the drug. And we may have several clinical trials with thousands of patients who have been exposed to the experimental drug. And then we can always have, and we have, of course, here, a tabulated summary. So the summary in a table, just to look into the percent of Humira-treated patients, for example, but it doesn't just go to that extent. We can have other tables, so components of ACR response. In studies RA2, RA3, we explain the studies as well. And those studies that we can explain here, or they are explained here, they can be found on clinicaltrials.gov. So if you would like to, for example, refer to the study that has been testing the efficacy and safety of Humira in the clinical setting or on humans, you can always go to clinicaltrials.gov and search for studies RA3 ACR, for example. And by looking into the study, you will see exactly what were the inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, what was the number of patients, how the product has been tested. And then you can always go back and forth for understanding the research strategy of the manufacturer. And that research strategy, of course, is and was the foundation for the approval of this drug. So we always find the results of clinical trials involving our drug, and the results are in the product label that we can see here. So don't forget again, you want to know more about the clinical trials, these clinical trials, you have to go to clinicaltrials.gov website, and then you will be able to search for the name of this trial, and you will be able to get more information. So the section is long. It's normal because we have several studies that must be conducted before a manufacturer is able to conclude, and of course to justify that the drug that they are looking at to put on the market is safe and has the efficacy. Sorry. Okay, then of course we continue with other studies. So you can see you have study JIA1, and you have other studies for example, psoriatic arthritis. And here again, we are having different results of the studies. So if you would like to, again, look into what information has been used in order to write the investigation new drug or IND applications, the product label is the first place to go in order to do the reverse. It means to look into the results and then to go back to the clinicaltrial.gov and to explore to see what was in the study. Same thing, if you would like to know what information has been added into the new drug application, we can always look into the product label. It gives us enough information, interesting information related to what has been added into the new drug application. Same thing applies to, sorry, any other registration application like new drug submissions in Canada, marketing authorization application in the EMA, etc. Perfect. Now you see, we continue with that long and very comprehensive section of clinical trials. All of these are all coming from the data that has been already published. We can also access for several of those studies the raw data, sorry, on clinicaltrials.gov. Perfect. So I continue with this, of course, without going too much into detail of clinical trials. Then it was just to show you that we have, again, this type of information that we have. Perfect. So I know this is long. I should have stopped on the top. Okay, and then we have the references. Now for references, of course, we can always look into whatever is given to us here, but it's just for the registries. But still, we can always look into FDA. We have a documentation system that we call docs, and we can always find more information related to the submission documents for this product. Now, the continuation of the product label is very interesting. And this is, for example, related to the supply. So how the product is supplied. So here again, if you would like to, again, I would say, see what has been added into an IND in the past, or a new drug application, or a CTA, or a new drug submission in the past, we can always refer to the published information by the manufacturer itself. And we can find that, of course, in detail in the product label. Of course, we can also refer to the product monograph in Canada, or the summary of product characteristics in the Europe or EU. They all have similar again, information related to the documentations or even information that have been submitted to regulatory authorities, sorry, for the registration of a drug. I'm going to close that because it's going to be long as well. And then we have another section. It's a patient counseling information, which is about sorry, all of the signs and symptoms that patients may encounter or experience, and we write down how we are going to be able to give patient counseling. Then you have the medication guide, where we have again this information that we also give to patients when they take the drug, and this is again the information that is prepared. Okay. Now, the next section is the medication guide, where, again, we give this information to patients. It's, again, what I already showed you. Then we have the instructions for use, where this is added into the package. This is in the package insert. This is for, again, patients, and it's also for the healthcare providers. So for each of the formulations, we do have the instructions for use. Then we have, again, as of course, you see, we have instructions for use for each type of the formulation, as I already explained. So when we go down, we see, for example, the principal display panel. Again, this is for each dose. So here, for example, this is what we have. And again, don't forget, this information has been already presented, of course, to FDA through the new drug application submission. So these are all the graphics or the, I would say, the images of the package. And for each of the formulations, we do have a different package. So here we have the principal display panel. So this is what we have. Now we can always continue because, again, each of those products may be, they are very similar but not identical because the content or the text on it is different as well. For example, for for Europe, we may have some restrictions for the language as well. It can be French, it can be Spanish, etc., depending on where it's being sold. The same thing applies to Canada, where we have to have in both languages the information related to the drug. So on the panel as well, obviously on the box, as well as on the package insert. Now we can look into the ingredients and appearance. Again, the ingredients is written here. So these are the items, the codes, the ingredients, what is in. And then here we have the solutions. For example, here we have the route of administration here, which is subcutaneous. And here we know that the strength, for example, of the ingredient in the subcutaneous injection or this in the solution is 40 milligram in 0.8 milliliter. So this information is related to the ingredients. You have inactive ingredients and you have active ingredients. All of this information is added into the new drug application or new drug submission documents. For example, in Canada, when we prepare a new drug submission in module 1 of the CTD, sorry, I'm sorry, the module, we have the form 3011. And in the form 3011, in box 54, we can add the active ingredients and inactive ingredients of the product. So as you see very well, all of the information is already communicated by the manufacturer to again, to FDA, and it's available already there. Perfect. So here, in a nutshell, that was the information that I just wanted to share with you related to Dailymed, use of Dailymed, and the information that is available through Dailymed. And of course, here we had an example of Humira or adalimumab. And this is a kit because this is a combination product of a medical device, of course, and a drug. So thank you so much for your attendance, and I hope that you enjoyed this lecture.